And is this thing on? It's the first time my microphone preamp has been hooked into the new ginormous audio mixer, so I'm hoping this sounds good. I'm looking at a bunch of waveforms and they look good. They look sexy. Oh yeah, look at that. I'll cut that out in editing. Alright, welcome to the Classic Game Room podcast. Before everyone freaks out, Classic Game Room 2085 is not canceled, but I don't have one this week, and I know a bunch of you got your beers cold and your CGR beer glasses ready to celebrate Friday, so I feel like I gotta give you something to hang out with, even if it's just me rambling about some inane nonsense. I have several CGR 2085s in production. The next one should be on RoboCop. I got some pinball stuff that I shot over the summer, some Operation Wolf footage, a bunch of Atari games, Armored Core 6, R-Type Final 3. All kinds of cool stuff. I got all kinds of cool stuff for you. Everything except time to make it, so that's kind of the problem right now. I have to rethink my production schedule. And February is one of the busiest months of the year for me, so that has crashed right into the production schedule of a show. Well, that's getting roughly 0.05% of the views that it needs. This was one of the outcomes that I planned for. There were three outcomes. There were three things that were going to happen when I set this in motion at the end of, or the middle of 2023. I figured the show's going to come out, and it's going to explode and do great, and it'll be awesome. That was outcome number one. Number two is that the show's going to come out, and everyone's going to hate it, and it's going to suck, and nobody's going to watch it, and that's going to be the end of it. And outcome number three is that the show's going to come out, people are going to love it, fans are going to love it, it's going to be fun to make, and it's going to look awesome, and nobody's ever going to see it. And then it's going to get eaten alive by other projects in my schedule, which is exactly what's happening, and that's also what happened the first time around for Season 1. Though I do have plans to see 2085 Season 2 through a season at roughly the same length as Season 1, so that eventually, hopefully, it can all be assembled into a nice 25th anniversary Blu-ray set. But I do have to keep a very close eye on my production time right now. Since the first episode took roughly 3 weeks to make, and, well, you can see the results. The venerable internet video game review show will celebrate its 25th anniversary. One way or another. One of the books I'm working on, and this is what I'm going to talk about a bit, is the history of Classic Game Room. And this is not just a trip through my adventure making Classic Game Room, but really a look at the dawn of internet broadcasting back in the 90s and early 2000. And it's been a while since I've sat down and really thought about this stuff and tried to mentally take this trip back through that period in my life, which was just awesome because it was like the late 90s, I was in my 20s. Great time. But also it's interesting to see how much this has changed, and how much the internet has changed, and how much the internet has changed us and the world that we live in. Not all for the better. But before I get into any of that, let's take a trip to 2011 or 2012. I think maybe it was 2012. Back in the day, Classic Game Room was like a company, and there were 6 of us. And we had a business meeting, and we were all looking over reviews and stuff, and it was kind of like the show had peaked around this time, and it was starting to come back down again, and we got in super early, so which is why people watched it in the first place, and that's why people have heard about this show. But I remember this meeting, we were looking over numbers, and I'm trying to explain to people that it doesn't matter what the videos are. All that matters is what they're called and what the icon looks like, which is clickbait. But we were trying to figure out what to do about making videos that the audience would like, which also got clicks from people who had not seen the shows before. So, clearly putting Mario on an icon and Super Mario Brothers Extreme Video Game Review or whatever, stuff like that. Made sense from the title and the icon perspective. But I always wanted to keep the show relatively consistent and focus on the mission of actually making game reviews, which is why we eventually tried to move stuff onto our own website and build that out. And anyway, none of it worked, and none of it was going to work, because you know what I kind of saw back in the day, but not clearly, is that clickbait combined with short videos was going to be the future. Like, if people are going to click on the video solely because of the icon or the title, and the video only needs to be like 10 seconds long, and it's going to earn the same amount of ad revenue as a video that we spent 2 or 3 days making, shouldn't we be doing that? And like, we didn't want to. I was actually messing around with that at one point with the Who Defeats things. Remember Who Defeats? Like, a Who Defeats took all of 30 seconds to make and earned just as much as a video that I could spend 2 days on. But viewers hated them, so I tried to get back to focusing on game reviews, which of course didn't work out. If I had just done Who Defeats, that wouldn't have worked out either, because in the end, no human being can compete against 9 billion teenagers with cell phones. And I've been messing around with TikTok for a while now, and it's what it is. But one of the things that's way different from that separates TikTok from the classic old-fashioned days of YouTube is that when people view a video on TikTok, even if they like it, even if they follow you, they just swipe away immediately. And that increases the chance that you're going to then swipe onto something which is a paid advertisement, and that's how TikTok makes their money. So what they really want is for you to scroll through quickly. And kids have no attention span, so what they're going to do is just scroll through these videos quickly. They don't really engage with the content in the same way that people used to engage with the content on YouTube. But now that YouTube has just turned into this like bastardized version of TikTok, they've actually just completely destroyed the original reason for YouTube to exist in the first place. But YouTube is still the only platform that anyone will watch, the only free platform that anyone will watch for longer form content, except they're squeezing longer form content creators to death by focusing on shorts. And well, that's combined with the fact that there's an infinite number of people making videos in the first place. So it wasn't really a surprise to me that new viewers would not be exposed to Classic Game Room 2085. I'm a little surprised that, given that like 400 and some thousand people have liked the channel over the years and subscribed, and that none of them are notified, like, that fact alone just ties my hands as a producer. There's nothing I can do. And, I can absorb a season of Classic Game Room 2085 production into my yearly budget, provided that, it contributes in other ways like glassware or Blu-ray sales or whatever. And anyway, this stuff's even getting, I think, more complicated now with AI, because you can pretty much just auto-generate videos and just fill up a TikTok feed with AI content. And maybe they label it. It doesn't matter. If people are going to watch it, they're going to watch it. And that's everybody's just going for the same thing, these clicks. And it's really taxing on producers making edited content who don't have 100 million views on a video. Now, a lot of people are going to probably disagree with me on this and say, you should do this, you should do that, but there's literally no way to defeat short-form videos with long-form content that's not on HBO. So why am I making a podcast? Good question. First reason is I've really been enjoying making Classic Game Room again, and the response has been terrific, and I've really appreciated the response. I've seen good comments, I've heard nice messages from people, read nice messages from people. This show has been well received. And though I don't have any time this week to do any editing or production work at all, in fact, I don't really have time this month, I don't necessarily want to just, stop. And a bunch of people out there probably have beers chilled, ready to go in their Classic Game Room glassware for Friday. So I don't really want to leave you hanging. So here's a podcast. Not as much fun to watch, I guess, but hopefully you're enjoying listening to it. Number 2, I've had a wealth of technical problems in the studio, which have really complicated filming. Because I set up a studio space in an office, which is the worst place to film. I think it was easier to film in a storage locker than an office space where you constantly have this blower from the furnace roaring overhead, and it's just noisy. And what really makes it difficult is that I don't have any off-camera microphones anymore, any shotgun microphones. I don't have one. I used to have a great one for the first season. It was like an $800 microphone. that was hanging like right off camera, like 1 inch off camera over my head, so it was just perfect. And then I ran that mic into an analog amp, and then that amp into the computer, which was on my desk, and I recorded the audio independently of the video, which is the appropriate way to record studio audio. I recorded everything into Audition, which is the same thing I'm using now. That gave me the freedom and flexibility to clean it up and tweak it and turn it into a really good sounding audio recording. So I don't have that now, and with like 4,000 views on a video, I'm not spending $800 on a microphone. So that's pretty much hung up the whole thing on the studio shots, which is why the episodes 4 and 5 I just shot in my office space using my good microphone, which is the one you're listening to now, but I'm like basically talking right into it, like 1 inch away, so it's not good for like a studio shot where I'm like flailing my arms around and holding up games and stuff. So I'm trying to cobble something together out of equipment that I have laying around to fix this audio problem without spending a penny on it. And the last reason here I'm doing the podcast format is I feel like I need to do something other than just TikToks, and which the show will continue to run on TikTok. It's crazy. I just don't get it. But like I unpacked all these boxes of games, and if people are just happy like seeing what the games look like and reminiscing about their time spent with this game, it's like this interactive format that I personally don't understand, but it seems to be what works, and it's weird. Like I always joke that I'm this man out of time, like from the future, but really I'm stuck in like 1980. So like I'm just confused. And also the last video, the one on the Atari 2600 Plus, which I thought turned out great, had a lot of fun making that. That ran behind in my schedule, so I didn't really get to start editing. In fact, I shot it on a Thursday. I was going to post it on a Friday, so I shot the whole thing on Thursday. I got a lot more efficient with the studio space and whatnot throughout this process. I've been doing this stuff for years. I kind of have a process. I shot it on Thursday, and then I started editing it on Thursday night, which I don't really like doing because I got family. I'd like to spend time with them on Thursday night, but I stayed up late, did a rough edit, went to sleep, and then I woke up at like 2:30 in the morning because I couldn't sleep because it was still like bouncing around in my head. You know what I'm talking about? I hate that feeling. It drives me nuts. When you run your own company, that happens a lot. And the only way to fix that is to get out of bed and finish whatever it is that you're working on, so that you can put your mind at ease and then go back to sleep. And that's what I did. I woke up at like 3 in the morning, went to my office, and did the final edit and recording and all the studio recording. It's part of the reason I wear the Amber Vision glasses, because I look so tired. Like, you're better off watching me with a hat and Amber Vision. So anyway, I put the whole video together, did the narration, did the mixing. Like I've got some templates now, so it's a little faster than the first episode, which took forever. Wrapped it up, posted it, and then went to sleep for like a couple more hours. It was exhausting, and on-camera work is not typically my favorite thing to do unless I can act like a maniac, which I think is a lot of fun on set and in the classic game room persona with like the Amber Vision and the Atari sweater. But it's taxing, and it's hard to do, again, with the 4,000 to 5,000 views. Of course, there's a lot of speculation. I've had people contacting me like, why is it doing that? Or, what's happening? Like, I don't know. I've got like this wall of data from YouTube, and like none of it makes any sense at all to me. So, like, I don't know. If that's the way they're going to play this game, then okay. Like, I'm a really technical person. Not sure that maybe you know that. I don't know. I know I've talked about this kind of stuff before, but like I get so absorbed in like video editing and technical stuff that I just like lose entire days doing it. So I have to be careful when doing edits because I become obsessive compulsive. And then when the videos go out and nobody really sees the edits or cares about the edits because nobody's clicking on the videos, these videos aren't getting recommended to people. I don't know why they don't go to any of the subscribers. But basically, it's the editing that's the problem. And this is not a problem with music producing. And I know there's a lot of people who are like, why is Mark doing that? Because it's doing better. That's why. And also, it's really fun. And like, I've talked about this before, but I started making music stuff in like the late 90s, early 2000s using loop software. Like, I was kind of intimidated by keyboards and stuff until I just took the time to learn them. And now I'm like perfectly at home with with keyboards and all this stuff, the drum machines, and like the editing. Music editing is the same thing as video editing, so I can get lost in details and just absorbed in production values that people actually do appreciate in music. Even though music is also being changed by TikTok and being changed by short-form internet videos, like people speeding up like music. Like Led Zeppelin is perfectly fine just the way it is. Don't speed it up to make a stupid dance video. Like, I just don't get it. But people who discover a song, it's just like way different because there's so many different channels out there, like Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and just like 1,000 other ones. But when people discover a song, if the song is poorly made, they're not going to listen to it. But if it is well made, there's a much greater chance they're going to listen to it. And this is like backwards from video. I would argue that if the video is poorly made, there's a much greater chance people are going to watch it now, because all you're watching is like 1 or 2 seconds before you scroll away anyway. How hard is it to just yell at the top of your lungs? And to be clear, I don't really mind TikTok. It's interesting how it like discovers what you're watching, and like actually really like, there's some dog videos on there I love. There's like a cop who has a dog. You've probably seen it. Right? There's a cop who's got like a dog in the police truck. He holds up food, and the dog just like has the same mannerisms as Stella, the viral dog, like my old dog. She's no longer with us, but she lived to like 17. She had a good life. But I just love watching this dog get so excited about food, and like you can hear its tail banging in the truck in the background. And like, is that a well-made video? No, but it's what you're gonna watch. It's what I'm gonna watch apparently on TikTok. My point here is that for a techie person, cell phones are like this mixed blessing. Like, in some respects, they're a curse because they've just simplified everything, and they've leveled the playing field, and they've just dumbed everything down. So anyway, shooting a video requires no technical knowledge whatsoever. And the new phones, like I have one of the new iPhones, like its microphone is remarkable for just like internet videos. And I used my iPhone actually to record the audio in the first 3 Classic Game Room episodes, the studio audio, which if you have a sharp ear, you can probably tell it's not as good as the like on mic audio that I'm like doing now. But I knew this was going to be difficult, and I wanted to see what the response to the show was before spending any more in the studio, because I was pretty sure that was going to be an issue. It's not an issue if you're just shooting like a vertical TikTok video. In fact, that set's great for vertical stuff, but I'm not sure there's any value to being on camera. It's that whole thing is so weird. So anyway, my point on the music business is that it's like what the video business used to be like. Like back in 1999, even 2010, like you had to be kind of technical to make consistent videos. And I think you have to be very technical to produce good, consistent music. I do electronic music, which is, for the most part, all in studio. I can't even imagine what kind of gear you would need to record a band. Actually, I don't need to imagine. I know exactly what kind of gear you would need to record a band. It's expensive, and that's why you don't see too many bands anymore. Music like hip-hop is much less expensive to produce. Most of the artists that you've heard of make their money touring. There's a lot of money in touring. Streaming revenue is terrible, but it does add up, and it's really low impact compared to video. I'm not sure how many people out there have actually explained this stuff, but Like, you're not going to make a whole lot off of, like, Spotify, for example, any more than you're going to make off of YouTube, unless you're huge, unless you're like Taylor Swift or like the most famous person on YouTube or something. But Spotify is one of like 100, 150 services, you know. Omega Ronin's out there generating some pennies on TikTok. Literally pennies, but pennies nonetheless. And pennies can turn into dollars. So, like, the growth path of Omega Ronin in particular is just astronomical right now. And that's good. That's what I want. That's a good thing to have. It does compete for classic game room time, though. They work well together. So, I'm not throwing in the towel, like I said. I'm actually having a good time, provided I can just keep the production time under control and work in a format that just suits my schedule. So 2085 is like the flagship show. I slow down production, try to fix some of the issues, and continue to make it good. Like, the CGR brand will continue in shorts, and if you're into the Omega Ronin stuff in particular, keep an eye on that, because there's no restraints like there are in content about video games. There's like these walls of what you can and can't say in like video game journalism. It's really weird now. Like, you have to talk about something in a way that people want you to talk about it, which then takes all the fun out of talking about it. But with music and animation, I can just run around giving everybody the finger and benefit from it. I'm pretty good at that. So I'm doing some stuff with not just 3D animation, some new music videos are coming out, and a lot of new albums in development, but also I'll be working in some virtual reality, so that you can like enjoy an Omega Ronin concert in the Matrix. Now, I love that kind of stuff, because that's a little more complicated than just shooting a 5-second video on a cell phone. So that's more in my wheelhouse. So if you like the Ronin stuff, subscribe to the Omega Ronin music channel on YouTube, where I'll be experimenting with a lot of the music-specific stuff there, but taking it back to 1999 with this book I'm working on. Just trying to remember these stories from like this old Office Space thing. I was working with my dad back then. He was like this creative. He's just like a software genius. So he invented a lot. He invented a lot of stuff that we were using 25 years ago to upload videos. And like I've said before, the piece that we never saw back then was the ability to just upload videos yourself. Because in 1999 and 2000, you couldn't do it without this massive array of expensive equipment. And the original concept, like when the game room started in November of 1999, what we were working towards was a studio in a box that we could then license to people, like a franchise around the world, and like go set up like this little studio so that they could shoot and then upload videos to our website service. And gosh darn it, we would have made it, except the original .com bust there kind of took our financing out of the picture. So we had to close down not just the game room, but all of these little rinky-dink shows we were making. The worst of late-night cable access television, is what one of my friends said. It's pretty spot on. It was a good time, though. That's what started my documentary career. And I suppose maybe I'll save that for the next podcast. Talking about documentaries, which also is actually a fun story. Once I sat down and like untangled this stuff in my brain. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh, that's right, we did this thing, and that thing blew up. And that person almost died, and the horse almost killed me. So I'll leave you with a thank you for watching Classic Game Room 2085. I suspect it's the same people who watch it every time. I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it. I know the people who get the show get it. I wish more people got it, but that's just kind of the nature of Classic Game Room. It's just a unique and unfortunately complicated and expensive beast to produce. But 2085 will see a season, probably the final season. But it may also just evolve into something else. I'm leaving that door open. That was part of the plan going into this, was If it evolves, then so be it. It can evolve. And right now I'm actually seeing a lot of growth on TikTok, which I know burns the ears of people who love YouTube, but, YouTube is screwing YouTube for you. Maybe you should try watching TikTok. There's a whole bunch of mediocre videos you can quickly scroll through. Anyway, I'll be just fine, provided I can continue to write songs about space robots from the future who live inside a black hole in a dystopian vision of the year 1982. This is the kind of stuff that actually goes on in my head. I'll be telling that story in the music videos, by the way. So if you ever get sucked into a black hole, just know that it's pretty awesome. See you next time on Classic Game Room Podcast or whatever. I don't even know what this is called. It's a thing, maybe. It's a thing. It's Thing. The Thing. That's a good movie. Oh, and one more thing. I forgot about this. I'll be doing, at least for the coming foreseeable future, the future. I'll be doing Friday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live album releases on Bandcamp. So you can come hang out and say hi. Listen to early release copies of If the Universe is Expanding, which actually you heard a clip of in this. And the album, the EP after that. I'm putting out a lot of EPs now. The EP after that is First Class Ticket to Awesome. See you next time.